Part 57. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 562. When Li Zhe mentioned Qi Lina, Li Fengqi's expression became a little unnatural. He knew that Li Zhe was disgusted with Qi Lina. Qi Lina and I went to Hainan because her relatives said it was quite profitable to do scraping and cupping there, so I went to try it to see if I could make money. I don't make money just for you. I think you will need money to buy a house and get married in the future, so I just want to make more money. Your father and I are only so capable, so I can help you as much as I can. After a pause, he said with some emotion, if I knew that you had become a big boss and were not short of money at all, I would not have gone to Hainan with her. For me, Li Zhe shook his head in amusement. His father is short-sighted, but he always likes to be clever and treat others as fools. For me? Last year, when K Tao bought a house and got married, you gave him 60,000 yuan. Is this also for me? K Tao is Qi Lina's son. Li Fengqi's expression suddenly changed after hearing this. Xiaozhe, how did you know about this? Then, he explained hesitantly, don't think too much, I just lent this money to her, and I will pay it back to me after 2 years when I have enough money. She also promised that when you get married and buy a house, will also lend us some. Li Zhe almost laughed. Who would believe this? He really fooled him into thinking he was a fool. He is 7 or 8 years younger than you, why should he follow you? Because you are old, why don't you take a shower? Isn't it just for your money? Okay, you don't need to explain. This is not why I came to you. I'm getting married in 2 days, and I asked you to come to the wedding. Are you getting married? Li Fengqi's tone was full of surprise. Who are you marrying? Just as Li Zhe was about to speak, there was a knock on the door. Come in. Zhang Wenjun opened the door and walked in with 2 cups of coffee. Brother Zhe, uncle, let's have a cup of coffee. Brother Zhe? Li Fengqi glanced at Zhang Wenjun. Could it be that she was the marriage partner Li Zhe mentioned? This little secretary has quite a big air, like a boss lady. Wenjun, please go out first. Li Zhe sent Zhang Wenjun away, and then said to Li Fengqi, her name is Xiaoqiao, and she is my college classmate. Xiaoqiao, Li Fengqi repeated the name. That's a nice name. What does she look like? Is she as pretty as your secretary, Xiaojun? And what do her family members do? Li Zhe hummed slightly, well, she's quite pretty too. She's from Xishan, and her parents are both teachers. That's good. You two are a good match, Li Fengqi nodded. By the way, does your mother know about this? She already knew it? Your mother has had a hard time in her life. Now that you are successful, you must honor her. Li Zhe listened and smiled but did not answer. His father is playing tricks again. Does he really want him to honor his mother? No, he was reminding him that if he becomes successful, he should not forget to honor his father. After that, neither of them spoke again. After a while of silence, Li Fengqi said tentatively, Xiaozhe, what have you been doing in the past few years? Aren't you studying in Hongcheng? When I was a freshman, I made some money writing novels online. Then I used the money to open a small company, which slowly grew to its current size. Li Zhe briefly talked about his business in a calm tone. After listening to this, Li Fengqi looked surprised and excited. I asked you why you didn't care about me asking for money. I thought it was your mother who gave it to me, but it turns out. Halfway through, he suddenly realized that he had said the wrong thing and quickly said, Xiaozhe, why didn't you tell me earlier? If he knew that Li Zhe had made a lot of money a long time ago, how could he not even dare to call him and come here to take advantage of it? Li Zhe looked at him calmly and said nothing. Meeting his eyes, Li Fengqi realized something and averted his eyes with a guilty conscience. Li Zhe is so rich and ranks among the top richest people in the country, but Li Fengqi has no idea about it. This seems unreasonable. But in fact, most elderly people live in their own world and do not care about changes in the outside world. Just like Li Fengqi, he doesn't even know about Penguin, Ari, and Irma, let alone what happened to Li Jie. Although the internet has become very popular in this era, with more than 400 million internet users across the country, the speed of information dissemination is still incomparable to the national self-media era 10 years later. Li Fengqi turned around and said flatteringly, "Xiaojie, how big is your company now? Isn't it hundreds of millions?" That's just the way he is. For rich and powerful people, even if they are ridiculed, he will shamelessly flatter them. Li Jie said unhurriedly, "Currently, Kudong Group Holdings under my name has invested in more than a dozen companies, and its current valuation is 27.6 billion. How much?" Li Fengqi stood up suddenly, with a look of shock on his face. 27.6 billion. Li Jie glanced at him. 27.6 billion. Li Fengqi suddenly swayed and fell onto the sofa, then slid off the sofa and sat on the ground, his whole body a little sluggish. Li Jie quickly stood up and helped him up from the ground. "Dad, are you okay?" "Xiaojie, do you think it's true?" Li Fengqi came back to his senses and grabbed Li Jie's arm excitedly. His guess on Li Jie's worth was that the upper limit was only a few hundred million, and he didn't dare to think about anything higher. 27.6 billion is beyond imagination for him. Li Jie smiled and said, 27.6 billion is just a valuation. Only when the company is successfully listed can the valuation have a chance to be realized. In fact, I still owe the bank several billion. Li Fengqi was shocked again when he heard this. "Why do you owe so much money to the bank? What should you do if you can't pay it back?" He did not doubt Li Jie's words. Li Jie's little cousin, Li Fengqi's niece, found a big boss, a millionaire, who ran a scenic spot and a jade shop overseas. On the surface, he is a big boss and a rich man, but in fact, his scenic spot cannot make ends meet, has been losing money, owes tens of millions to the bank, and is hiding from debt collectors. This gave Li Fengqi an inherent impression that the big boss's money was all borrowed. In fact, this is also the case. Most companies are operating in a state of debt. If we can't repay the debt, we will have no choice but to go bankrupt, but the company's current financial situation is still good, Li Jie said in a relaxed tone. That's good. Li Fengqi felt relieved after hearing this. "Xiaojie, if your company, is successfully listed, you will have more than 20 billion in assets." "It's more than 20 billion in equity," Li Jie corrected. "The equity must be sold before it can be turned into money, otherwise it will just be a number on the books." "Can the company go public?" "It's hard to say. The company is currently competing with Penguin Group. Penguin Group is a listed company and is much stronger than us. It has a market value of 300 to 400 billion, so it's hard to say whether it will win or lose." 3 to 400 billion? Li Fengqi was completely shocked and was stunned for several seconds. More than 20 billion and 300 to 400 billion, with such a huge difference in strength, how could they win? His son is too bold to compete with such a big company. "Xiaojie, do you have to compete? If it doesn't work, just admit defeat." Li Jie glanced at him and said, "Dad, have you heard the saying that shopping malls are like battlefields? Giving up in the shopping mall will only make you die faster. Okay, just leave it alone. You don't understand business matters." After a pause, he added, "After the wedding is over, I will arrange for someone to accompany you abroad to have fun and enjoy yourself." After hearing this, Li Fengqi's face suddenly showed joy. "That's good, I've never been abroad in my life." Li Jie also smiled. After saying so much, he finally achieved his goal. His father is a very easygoing person. If he were to know his true net worth, he would probably get carried away and show it off everywhere. If anyone compliments or flatters him, he will dare to agree to anything. Rather than letting him stay in the country and cause trouble, it would be better to send him abroad to retire. The two chatted for a while. Li Jie raised his wrist, looked at the time, stood up and said, "Let's go, I'll take you home." The extended black Bentley slowly drove into the villa area and stopped in front of a European retro-style villa. Li Fengqi followed Li Jie out of the car and looked at the luxurious villa in front of him. He was a little shocked again. He had never seen such a nice villa before, let alone lived in it. "Xiao Jie, your villa is so nice." Li Jie smiled and walked into the villa first without saying anything. In the living room, Mother Li, Han Fei, fourth aunt, third aunt, second aunt, as well as Qiao's father, Qiao's mother, and Xiao Qiao's relatives were all there. They all sat together and laughed and chatted. Xiao Qiao stayed with Mother Li and Mother Qiao. Li's mother and Qiao's father and Qiao's mother both lived in the villa. As for the relatives and friends of the two families, Li Jie arranged for them to stay at the Zijiao Hotel next door. Xiao Qiao didn't know what she was talking about, which made both Mother Li and Mother Qiao laugh. Her character is pure and simple, her mouth is sweet, and she is very popular with the elderly. Mother Li was very satisfied with her prospective daughter-in-law. She originally liked Chen Xinyi the most, but after getting to know him, she became more and more fond of Xiao Qiao. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 563. Seeing Li Jie and Li Fengqi walking in together, Xiao Qiao, Father Qiao, Mother Qiao, fourth aunt, third aunt, second aunt and others all stood up. Only Mother Li did not move, looking coldly at Li Fengqi behind Li Jie. "You're back." Xiao Qiao walked to Li Jie with a smile, glanced at Li Fengqi curiously, and vaguely guessed the other person's identity. "Xiao Jie, you're back." Father Qiao and Mother Qiao also greeted Li Jie with smiles. The fourth aunt's eyes fell on Li Fengqi, and she said hello with a smile, "Brother-in-law." The third aunt and the second aunt also said hello, "Brother-in-law." Li Fengqi smiled broadly and nodded to fourth aunt and the others, "Everyone is here." After speaking, he turned to look at Mother Li. Mother Li turned her head away, not even looking at him. Noticing this scene, everyone looked at each other and felt that the atmosphere was a bit awkward. When Li Jie was in the third grade of junior high school, Li's mother and Li Fengqi had a complete falling out because of Qi Lina's incident, and their relationship was so tense that they didn't even speak when they met. The fourth aunt, third aunt, second aunt, and others had long known about Li's mother and Li Fengqi, and tried to ease the atmosphere, but they didn't know how to speak. The fourth uncle glanced at Mother Li and said hesitantly, "Sister, my eldest brother-in-law is here." "He can come when he comes," Mother Li said coldly. Father Qiao and Mother Qiao looked at each other. They also heard from Xiao Qiao that the relationship between Li Jie's parents was not very good, but they did not expect it to be this bad. Li Jie glanced at Mother Li, then at Li Fengqi, and shook his head in his heart. He will never interfere with the affairs of these two people this time. Li Jie turned to look at Xiao Qiao and introduced, "Xiao Qiao, this is my father." After saying that, he said to Li Fengqi, "Dad, she is Xiao Qiao." "Hello, uncle," Xiao Qiao said quickly with a smile. "Hello," Li Fengqi looked her over, smiling very kindly. Li Jie turned to look at Qiao's father and Qiao's mother again, but before he could introduce them again, Qiao's mother took the initiative to step forward and said to Li Fengqi with a smile, "My father-in-law is a good man, I am Xiao Qiao's mother." "Hello, mother-in-law," with a smile on his face, Li Fengqi shook hands with Mother Qiao, and then shook hands with Father Qiao. After the greetings, everyone sat down again. Xiao Qiao sat with Mother Qiao and Mother Li, and Li Jie sat with Father Qiao and Li Fengqi. Mother Li and Li Fengqi still didn't speak. Father Qiao, Mother Qiao, and the fourth aunt, third aunt, second aunt and others tried to calm the atmosphere. After chatting like this for a while, Li Jie stood up and said to Li Fengqi, "Dad, I will take you, let's go to the room and have a look." "Okay," Li Fengqi also stood up. Li Jie took Li Fengqi upstairs to the guest room on the third floor. This bedroom was converted from a study room. It is about 20 square meters and is very luxuriously decorated. "Dad, you can stay in this room." Li Fengqi looked around the room, unable to suppress the smile on his face. "The conditions are great." He turned around and said with emotion, "Xiaojie, Dad really got into your trap." Today's experience made him feel like he was in a dream. His son had become a big boss with a net worth of tens of billions, and he also benefited from it, riding in luxury cars and living in a big villa. Li Jie listened and smiled, "Dad, you can rest for a while, I'll go out first." After saying that, he was ready to leave. Li Fengqi stopped him again, "Xiaojie, have you informed your aunt and uncle about your marriage?" Li Jie stopped and nodded, "I sent someone to pick up my aunt. She should arrive tomorrow." With so many relatives on both sides of his parents, he had a good impression of his aunt, at least she looked like an aunt. But it was limited to his aunt, and he had no relationship with his eldest uncle, 2 cousins, and a younger cousin. Maybe one is the eldest sister and the other is the youngest. Li Fengqi is particularly close to his eldest sister, and he is even better to his nephews and nieces than his son. He also always said that his nephew and niece promised to support him in his future retirement. Nephews and nieces taking care of themselves in old age? When people say nice things, he takes them seriously. What people are most afraid of is not being able to carry something close and distant. Li Fengqi is particularly close to his eldest sister's family, and has a lot to do with his 2 nephews and a niece who are both relatively promising. Li's father is the youngest and married late, so Li Jie and his 2 cousins and 1 cousin are said to be of the same generation, but in fact they are 2 generations apart. He was only 4 years older than his cousin. Li Jie's first cousin was a small leader with some power, but he resigned early because of illness. The second cousin was a gangster when he was young, and even worked as a squatter for a few years, but because of his elder brother's reputation, he became a small boss by doing small projects. The little cousin also found a millionaire lucky man. Even though he owed so much money, he ran a scenic spot and was a big boss on the surface. Li Jie's aunt's family conditions were not good in the early years. Her eldest uncle refused to learn and ran away with his wife. She had to raise 3 children by herself. The second son was always fighting and getting into trouble. You can imagine how many things must have happened at that time. Difficult. Li Fengqi got married late, and the little money he earned when he was young was basically subsidized to his eldest sister's family. He raised 2 nephews and a niece. But it's of no use. The nephews and nieces are all successful, but he, the brother-in-law, can't even get a bit of glory. When your parents are here, who would be grateful to you for having an uncle? No matter how bad a father is, he is still a father, and no matter how good an uncle is, he is still an uncle. What's more, this uncle doesn't have much ability. However, this does not prevent him from continuing to get close to and flatter others. Hearing that Li Jie said that his aunt had been notified, Li Fengqi smiled and nodded, "That's good. By the way, I'll call your uncle and your second aunt again and ask them to come to your wedding." He couldn't wait to let everyone in his hometown know that his son had become a big boss. Li Jie shook his head, "Let's forget it. We have no contact with them." "Okay, I'm leaving." "Then let me see you off." Li Fengqi sent Li Jie out the door and wanted to continue sending him away. Li Jie stopped him and said, "Don't send me any more. Just leave it here." "Okay then." Li Fengqi then went back to the room. Looking at his leaving figure, Li Jie shook his head in his heart. Both his father and his son are so powerful. Going downstairs to the living room downstairs, Li Jie said to Xiaoqiao, who was talking to Li's mother, "Xiaoqiao, let's go." "Okay, Xiao Jiao glanced at Mother Li and stood up. Li Jie said to Mother Li, Father Jiao and Mother Jiao, Mom, we are leaving. Uncle, Aunt, let's go. Mother Li, Father Jiao, Mother Jiao, fourth aunt, third aunt, and second aunt all stood up one after another. Xiao Jie, are you two leaving now? Li Jie nodded, let's go for a walk outside. After Father Jiao and Mother Jiao arrived, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi and the others stopped coming to the villa. Xiao Jiao also moved back to her small duplex apartment. Although the two have been living together for 3 or 4 years, according to custom, the bride is not allowed to live in the groom's house in the first few days of the wedding. Li Jie let Li's mother live in his master bedroom, and Xiao Jiao's second bedroom was decorated as a wedding room. Mother Li, Father Jiao, Mother Jiao and others sent Li Jie and Xiao Jiao outside the villa and watched their car slowly drive away. In the car, Xiao Jiao glanced at Li Jie and found that he looked thoughtful. Husband, what are you thinking about? Li Jie came back to his senses and smiled at her, I feel like uncle has some objections to me. After Father Jiao came over this time, his attitude towards him changed drastically. He always had a cold face, as if he had offended him in some way. Xiao Jiao smiled and said, maybe it's because I'm getting married, and he feels uncomfortable. You should understand him more. Li Jie put his arms around her and said, don't worry, he is your dad, that is, my dad. How can I be angry with him? Could it be that his father-in-law discovered something? It's really possible. Then you still take advantage of him, Xiao Jiao said with an angry smile. Li Jie was stunned for a moment, and then coughed covertly. Didn't he just let her shout a few times? Why does she always remember this? Then you call me brother tonight. Don't want. The two laughed and joked for a while. Xiao Jiao seemed to have remembered something and said tentatively, husband, how about we persuade the uncle and aunt? It's not a problem for them to be so stiff. When Li Jie heard this, he stopped smiling and said, just leave this matter alone. He really planned to persuade his parents after the wedding, but not to persuade them to reconcile, but to persuade them to divorce. Since the two of them have stopped communicating with each other, why should they still keep the certificate? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh. Honey, why are you sighing? Xiao Jiao asked, but she vaguely guessed something in her heart. Li Jie said nothing and turned to look out the window. To be honest, he is not reluctant to give up money. Giving his parents a few million, even tens of millions, is nothing. No matter how many shortcomings his parents have, they still gave birth to him. The problem is that he can't give it, and it's not a good thing to give them too much money. Just like some parents who overindulge their children, give them whatever they ask for, and are reluctant to say a few words no matter how big a mistake they make. On the surface, they are doing good to their children, but in fact they are harming them. His mother was used to being thrifty. Even if she was given more money, she would not be willing to spend it. Instead, it would attract the covetousness of a group of people, making her uneasy. The human heart will never be satisfied. If his cheap brother, sister-in-law and relatives take away millions, they will want tens of millions. It's better not to give it in the first place, just give his mother some pension money, and then give her more food. And his father was especially easy to inflate. Once he had several million, he would forget his own last name and spend money wantonly to find women. He just drove away Chilina, but he didn't want to find another cheap aunt for himself. After Li Jie and Xiao Jiao left, Qiao's father, Qiao's mother, fourth aunt, second aunt, and third aunt all also said goodbye to Li's mother and left. After the fourth aunt, third aunt, and second aunt came out of the villa, they walked to the hotel while talking to each other. In fact, as soon as they heard that Li Jie was getting married, all the relatives on Li's mother's side didn't want to come to the wedding. Li Jie's fourth aunt, third aunt, second aunt, and younger aunt all ran to Li's mother to get close to her. In the past 2 or 3 years, my aunt, fourth aunt, and third aunt often went to visit Lee's mother and said some friendly and flattering words to her, but only my uncle still put on airs. Mother Lee was too soft-spoken. As time went by, she forgot that several of her sisters were not good to her, and their relationship became increasingly relaxed. Seeing that her aunt and fourth aunt wanted to come to the wedding, she agreed. However, Leisha only sent invitations to the fourth aunt, the third aunt, and the second aunt, leaving the aunt alone behind. Even if she shamelessly wanted to come along, she was stopped by the people sent by Leisha. My aunt is the one who forgets her roots the most. When she was young, Mrs. Lee worked outside to make money and sent money home. When she was buying things, her aunt was the closest to her. But when she stopped making money, she became the one who looked down on her the most. Even if he can ignore the past grievances, his mother is really hopeless. Isn't Xiaojia's girlfriend that Xiaojia? Why did his marriage partner become the Xiaojiao again? The second aunt said in a puzzled tone. She had met Zhou Ziyu. When her daughter Yao Li went to Li Zhe's company for an internship, she lived with Zhou Ziyu for a while. This Xiaojiao seems to have been with Xiaojia for a long time, even earlier than that. Xiaozhou the fourth aunt said, looking at each other with the third aunt and the others. Then Xiaoji has found two girlfriends, the second aunt said hesitantly. Yes, that must be the case. There are some men who are careless, let alone someone as rich as Xiaoji, the third aunt said with certainty. Li Zhe's third uncle is the kind of person who doesn't have much money but is very carefree. That Xiaozhou is much prettier than the Xiaojiao. Why didn't Xiaojia choose her? Said the fourth aunt curiously. Does the eldest sister not like that Xiaozhou? The second aunt guessed. Eldest sister, how could she care about Xiaojia? Xiao also wanted to come. Eldest sister agreed, but she was stopped by Xiaojia's people, the third aunt said with a bit of gloating. People are not worried about scarcity but inequality. If everyone could come to the wedding, it would be nothing. Now, only the fourth aunt, the third aunt, and the second aunt can come, but the aunt and uncle can't come even if they want to, and a contradiction suddenly arises. The next morning, while Xiaojiao was still sleeping, he was woken up by a knock on the door. Xiaojiao, get up quickly, Xiaojia is here. Xiaojiao got up from the bed in a daze, and came out of the room disheveled without cleaning up. I saw Li Zhe sitting on the sofa, talking to Mother Jiao. Why are you here so early? You forgot, I told you yesterday that I would take you to a place today. Li Zhe looked at her and said with a smile. Xiaojiao thought for a while, and it seemed that this was the case. Then I'll go wash up first. Wait a moment. Li Zhe stopped her again, don't put on makeup, and dress simply, like me. He is wearing a white shirt and trousers today. Oh, I know, Xiaojiao said nonchalantly, turned around and went to wash up. Mother Jiao realized something, and there was a clear look of surprise on her face. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 564. After Xiaojiao washed up, she put on a simple white shirt and ruffled skirt. Wearing no makeup and only a little lipstick, she looked particularly pure and small, like a freshman who had just entered college. Husband, let's go. Li Zhe looked at her and stood up from the sofa. Xiaojia, how about you two have breakfast before leaving? Mother Jiao's eyes fell on the white shirts of the two of them, and she couldn't hide the smile on her face. We won't eat. Li Zhe shook his head lightly, and then said to Xiaojiao, did you bring your ID card? ID card? Then I'll get it. Xiaojiao asked curiously, where are we going and why do we need to bring our ID cards? Mother Jiao reminded her, bring your household registration book with you. Hyukao, Xiaojiao was even more surprised upon hearing this. What are you doing with your household registration book? She paused and looked at Li Jie. He holds my household registration book. Mother Chiao glanced at her and said, her daughter is usually very smart, how could she be so stupid now? Xiao Chiao went upstairs to his room to get his ID card, when Chiao's father opened the door and walked out of the room. Uncle, Li Jie greeted him with a smile. Father Chiao just nodded to him coldly, here you come. Seeing her husband like this, Mother Chiao gave him a hidden look. Where can I find such a good son-in-law? Who knows what mood he is in? Soon, Xiao Chiao hurried down from upstairs again. Husband, let's go. Dad, Mom, let's go. Mother Chiao and Father Chiao sent the two people outside the door together. Xiao Jie, Mother Chiao stopped Li Jie. When you come back, let's have a meal together. Okay, Li Jie smiled and nodded. Seeing Li Jie and Xiao Chiao walking away, Father Chiao looked away and said to Mother Chiao, what are they doing? What to do? Mother Chiao had a bright smile on her face and said with a smile, if I guessed correctly, Xiaojie must have taken Xiao Chiao to get the certificate. Get a certificate? After hearing this, Father Chiao was obviously stunned for a moment, with a complicated look on his face. Mother Chiao glanced at him and said a little dissatisfied, what's your expression? Our daughter is getting married. This is a great event. Although the wedding has not yet been held, as long as the certificate is obtained, it is considered a marriage and is protected by law. Weddings are more of a formality. She paused and then said, what's wrong with you recently? You seem to have a problem with Xiaojie. Even if your daughter is getting married and you feel bad, you can't take it out on Xiaojie. What a good son-in-law he is. Oh, that's not the case at all, Father Chiao shook his head and sighed. Your good son-in-law, he has another woman outside. Mother Chiao was stunned when she heard this. After a few seconds, she said in disbelief, it's impossible, Xiaojie shouldn't be that kind of person. Besides, Xiaojin is here, Shanghai Stock Exchange. If Xiaojie really has something, he can't possibly not notice it at all, right? Xiaojin, Father Chiao said angrily, don't mention this kid. He has been bribed by your good son-in-law a long time ago. Now I finally understand what it means to be fake and true, and to be traitorous and loyal. This guy Li Jie seems to be honest, but in fact he is very thoughtful. That's right. If he was really honest, he wouldn't have been able to accomplish such a big undertaking in just a few years. Mother Chiao still didn't want to believe it, mainly because Li Jie had such a good impression on her. Are you just guessing, or do you have any real evidence? Don't accuse Xiaojie unjustly. I wronged him, Father Chiao looked annoyed. He touched his body, took his phone out of his pocket, then clicked on the photo album, found a photo, and handed it to Mother Chiao, take a look. Mother Chiao took it and took a look, and was immediately shocked. Is this the girl? She thinks Xiao Chiao is very beautiful. At least in their town, there is no other girl who is more outstanding than her. But when compared with the girl in the photo, she was outclassed. One is still within the category of ordinary beauty, but the other is completely beyond the category of ordinary beauty. Father Chiao hummed and said, this girl's name is Zhou Ziyu, her pen name is Chen Yu. She is a youth best-selling author and is quite famous online. Zhou Ziyu, Mother Chiao repeated the name, her face becoming solemn. Father Chiao continued, this kid Li Jie should have been with her for a long time. She transferred from Hongcheng Normal University to Shanghai Normal University when she was a sophomore. You should understand the difficulty of this kind of interprovincial transfer, especially from a poor school to a good school. If ordinary people can't do it, Li Jie must have helped her do it. After hearing this, Mother Chiao fell silent, and her original good mood disappeared without a trace. After a while, she sighed softly and said, Xiao Chiao, does she know? I've tested it out, and 9 times out of 10 she knows. Mother Chiao nodded and said, "This is understandable. Xiaoji is so good. Even if he doesn't provoke others, many girls will take the initiative to get close to him." Father Chiao was stunned when he heard this. He never expected that his wife would say that. "You don't blame that boy?" Chiao's mother said in a complicated tone, "What's the use of being weird? That's the end of it. You can't call and ask Xiao Chiao to come back and not go get the certificate, right?" Father Chiao's eyes fell on the jade bracelet on her wrist. "You won't be bribed by that kid." Mother Chiao stopped as soon as she heard this. "What are you talking about? Xiao Chiao is my daughter. How could I ignore her just because of a bracelet? How many men can withstand temptation? Didn't you do the same back then?" Father Chiao's expression suddenly became unnatural, and he coughed twice to cover up. "Ahem, didn't you agree not to mention this matter again?" Mother Chiao glanced at him and said, "Can't you see, Xiao Chiao has identified Xiao Zhe? If we stop her, she will probably blame us for the rest of her life. Besides, even if Xiaoji is a bit of a playboy, he is capable and responsible, and he is sincere towards Xiao Chiao." After hearing what she said, Father Chiao fell silent and didn't speak for a long time. In fact, both Father Chiao and Mother Chiao avoided a question. If Li Zhe was not a billionaire, would they give in so easily? It's obviously impossible. Arriving at the parking lot, Li Zhe took Xiao Chiao into a white BMW SUV, started the car and drove out of the community. "Honey, what on earth are we going to do?" Xiao Chiao glanced at Li Zhe and said. Li Zhe smiled at her while driving. "You'll know when you get there." TCH, mysterious. 10 minutes later, the car stopped in front of an office building. Civil Affairs Bureau. Xiao Chiao looked at the office building in front of him and couldn't help shouting in surprise. "Honey, are we here to get the certificate?" She turned to look at Li Zhe, her face full of surprise and surprise. Xiao Chiao also reacted. No wonder Li Zhe asked her to bring her ID card. Her mother also reminded her to bring her household registration book. She was not allowed to bring her ID card or household registration book when receiving the certificate. She thought the two would hold the wedding ceremony first and then get the certificate. "It is illegal to drive without a license," Li Zhe said with a smile. "Driving without a license?" Xiao Chiao was startled for a moment, and then she understood what Li Zhe meant. She smiled and glared at him. "It's been several years, and you only now know that it's illegal. Come on, let's go in." Li Zhe took out 2 masks from the glove box and gave one to Xiao Chiao for her to put on. Then he also put on a mask, and the two got out of the car together. "I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn." Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 565. Since it was not a special day such as May 20th or Valentine's Day, and it was not a weekend, there were not many people at the Civil Affairs Bureau to collect the certificates. However, in this era, the Internet Lover 520 is not very popular, unlike the proliferation of Valentine's Day 10 years later, 520, 521, Chinese Valentine's Day, Christmas Eve, Christmas, and even Lantern Festival and Mid-Autumn Festival have become Valentine's Day. Anyway, whenever it's a holiday, I have to buy gifts and send red envelopes to my girlfriends. When they arrived at the marriage registration office, Li Zhe went to get the number, and then the two sat down on the chairs in the corridor and waited patiently. In front of the two people was a young couple, who must have just reached the legal age. The girl was leaning on the boy's arms and acting coquettishly. The girl turned to look at Li Zhe and Xiao Chiao, and whispered to the boy, "Isn't it hot if you wear a mask on a hot day?" After hearing this, the boy also glanced at Li Zhe and Xiao Chiao, his eyes focused on Xiao Chiao. Although Xiao Chiao wore a mask to cover her face, she could still tell that she was a beauty. If a girl is tall, fair-skinned, and not particularly bad-looking, she is a beauty. The girl suddenly remembered something and said excitedly to the boy, "You said they are not celebrities, right?" They came here secretly to get their certificates. As she spoke, she looked at Li Jie and Xiao Jiao carefully. Where did there come from so many stars? The boy met Li Jie's gaze and avoided it with some fear. Rich and powerful people have a different aura. Their eyes are confident and powerful, making people subconsciously want to retreat. Big bosses such as Jack Ma and Richard Liu, at the peak of their lives, were all confident, high-spirited, and full of momentum in their every move. Please go to window number 2, Noah 008. The announcement sounded. It's our turn. The boy pulled the girl to stand up. As soon as the young couple left, the radio sounded again, and it was Li Jie and Xiao Jiao's turn. They are window number 3. The person who checked in was a young woman in her early 30s with good temperament. She glanced at Li Jie and Xiao Jiao and said, "Bring your ID cards and household registration books. Please take off your masks, please." Both Li Jie and Xiao Jiao took off their masks. Li Jie took out his household registration book and ID card from his handbag, and then took Xiao Jiao's ID card and handed it to the female staff member. The female staff member looked at the two of them and reached out to take the identification materials. The woman of this pair is pure and beautiful, and the man has a handsome appearance and a good temperament, so they are a perfect match. "Are you getting married voluntarily?" Xiao Jiao asked curiously. "If you don't get married voluntarily, you can't get married, right?" The female staff member put down the certificate in her hand, looked at her and said, "Yes, to register a marriage, both of you must be completely voluntary." "Miss, are you doing this voluntarily?" Xiao Jiao looked at Li Jie with a smile and said, "I guess so." "That's not okay." The female staff member returned the certificate and said, "If you haven't thought about it yet, go back and think about it again." Li Jie reached out and pulled up Xiao Jiao. "If you don't want to, forget it, I'll bring someone else over." Xiao Jiao quickly grabbed him and said with a flattering smile, I do. This guy must still be thinking about Zhou Hu. She can't let his conspiracy succeed." She turned around and smiled apologetically at the female staff member. "Sister, you don't have to think about it anymore, I'm totally willing." The female worker shook her head in amusement, but she didn't take it seriously. After working for so many years, she had never seen any strange couples. There were also some who played marriage as a house, divorced as soon as they had a quarrel, and then remarried after they reconciled. She handed the 2 registration forms to the two of them, "Then fill in these forms." After Li Jie and Xiao Jiao finished filling out the application for marriage registration declaration, the female staff member took it over and looked at it briefly and said, "Okay, you can go take pictures. Marriage certificate photos can be taken at the Civil Affairs Bureau for a fee of 30-70 yuan, or you can bring your own as long as they meet the specifications and requirements of the Civil Affairs Bureau." Li Jie and Xiao Jiao came to the studio on the 2nd floor. A young girl in her 20s was in charge of taking photos. After the two stood in front of the red background wall, the girl raised the camera. The corners of Li Jie's mouth were slightly raised and his eyes were gentle. Xiao Jiao tilted her head and leaned against him with a smile on her face. Click, the flashlight flashed and the scene was frozen for an instant. After the photos were taken, all that was left was to make the marriage certificate and take the oath. In fact, the oath link can be omitted, and Li Jie doesn't care about it at that time. The oath is the most unreliable thing, otherwise there wouldn't be so many people getting divorced. But Xiao Jiao took it seriously and pulled him to stand on the oath-taking stage. The staff looked at the two people and said loudly and forcefully, "I am Shen Li, the certificate issuance officer of Hongkou District. I am very happy to issue marriage certificates to you too. Today is a sacred day. Please answer my questions solemnly. Are you getting married voluntarily?" Li Jie and Xiao Jiao looked at each other with a smile and said at the same time, "We are getting married voluntarily. Please face the solemn national flag and national emblem and read the wedding oath together." Li Jie and Xiao Jiao picked up the wedding oath and began to read, "We voluntarily become husband and wife. From today on, we will jointly shoulder the responsibilities and obligations that marriage entrusts us, to be filial to our parents, to educate our children, to respect and love each other, trust and encourage each other, understand and give in to each other, help each other, and love each other for life. From now on, no matter good times or bad, rich or poor, healthy or sick, young or old, we will be in the same boat through thick and thin, share weal and woe, share joys and sorrows, and become lifelong partners. We must stick to today's oath, and we will definitely be able to stick to today's oath." Bang, bang, the steel seal was stamped on the two red notebooks. The certificate issuing officer handed one copy of the marriage certificate to Li Jie and Xiao Jiao. He smiled and blessed and said, "Congratulations, you two, now you are legally married. Couple." After walking out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Xiao Jiao looked at the marriage certificate in his hand and smiled like a fool. "It's just a driver's license." Li Jie smiled and stretched out his arms to hold her in his arms. "You look like this, and others think I married a fool." "You are the fool," Xiao Jiao said angrily. As if something suddenly occurred to her, she smiled and said, "Li Jie, from today on you are mine. As a married woman, remember to abide by the 3 obediences and the 4 virtues." After a pause, she clasped her fingers and said, "You must follow your wife when she goes out, you must obey your wife's orders, you must blindly obey your wife when she says something wrong, you must wait for your wife to put on makeup, remember your wife's birthday, tolerate your wife's beatings and scoldings, and spend money on your wife. Be willing to give up." The new 3 obediences and 4 virtues was a joke made by Hu Shi in the last century. He said that he was a member of the Hepect Association and proposed the new 3 obediences and 4 virtues that men should abide by. This new 3 obediences and 4 virtues meme has become popular on the internet in recent years, which illustrates the improvement of women's social status. Li Jie's mouth twitched when he heard this, and he slapped her little head in a funny way. "If I can kill you, you have to go to heaven, right? Okay, you beat your wife as soon as you get married, you scumbag," Xiao Jiao said with a smile. Li Jie raised his hand and touched her butt again. "Pa. I'll ask you to tell me again, what are the new 3 obediences and 4 virtues?" Xiao Jiao bit her lip and said reluctantly, "You must follow your husband when he goes out, and you must obey your husband's orders." After listening, Li Jie nodded with satisfaction. "When you get home, copy this passage 30 times. Xiao Jiao couldn't help but exclaimed, 30 times is too much, okay." Seeing Li Jie staring at her closely, she gave in aggrievedly. "Wherever there is oppression, there is resistance." Xiao Jiao muttered softly. "What are you saying?" "I said I would copy it as soon as I got home." Li Jie couldn't help but laugh. This Xiao Jiao was really interesting. When marrying a wife, you can't just look at her looks. No matter how beautiful a woman is, she will get tired of her after a long time. Only her interesting personality is the only one in a million. When the two came to the parking lot and got in the car, Xiao Jiao asked for Li Jie's marriage certificate and fiddled with the 2 marriage certificates. She glanced at him and said tentatively, "Hubby, can I send one to you, Moments?" She would feel uncomfortable if she didn't post it on Moments to show off to Zhou. Li Jie started the car and said, "Do you want to post on Moments?" "It depends on your performance tonight." Xiao Jiao said quickly, "Husband, I will definitely perform well. I will do whatever you ask me to do." "You will do whatever I ask you to do?" Li Jie's eyes fell on her little face. He showed a playful smile and said something softly. After hearing this, Xiao Jiao bit her lip, showing obvious reluctance. "You know how to make fun of me. What does it mean to be mean?" Li Jie said disapprovingly, "Jiao Bao, I bully you because I like you. Why else would I not bully others?" Xiao Jiao snorted softly, "Have you bullied many people?" Li Jie was stunned and coughed twice in embarrassment. Xiao Jiao glanced at him and said angrily, "You know how to flirt with me. Even when I look in the mirror, my face looks a little green." Li Jie couldn't hold it back and burst out laughing. "You still have the nerve to laugh," Xiao Jiao stopped immediately. "Jiao Bao, actually you look really good in a green skirt." "Yeah. Li Jie, you guy, I'll beat you to death." "Hey, I'm driving." On the Bund, in a specialty tea restaurant, Zhou was having afternoon tea with Huo Lily. Huo Lily was talking about something, and Zhou listened quietly while sipping tea. "I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn." Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 566. After Huo Lily finished speaking, Zhou put down the teacup and said with a full smile, "Lily, you are saying that I met a high school student online when I was a sophomore and made a 3-year appointment. Now the little boy has passed the exam. I went to university and came to see you." She paused and said, "Lily, I didn't expect you to be quite romantic." Huo Lily said in annoyance, "Okay, Tsuyu, why don't you make fun of me? Are you still romantic? I'm so annoyed." When she was playing games with her in her sophomore year, Huo Lily met a boy with good conditions online. He was handsome, had a good personality, and had good family conditions. He was a rich second generation. But she accidentally learned that the other person was only 16 years old and had just entered high school, so Huo Lily cut off contact with the little boy without hesitation. The little boy vowed at that time that he would come to see Huo Lily and ask her to be his girlfriend after he was admitted to college. Huo Lily didn't pay much attention to it, thinking it was just a little boy's impulse. But she didn't expect that 3 years later, after the little boy was admitted to college this year, he would actually come to Shanghai to look for her. The smile on Zhou's pretty face became more and more obvious. "Lily, this little boy has been waiting for you so infatuatedly for 3 years, why don't you think about it and give him a chance?" "Tsuyu," Huo Lily couldn't help but yelled. "Can you stop teasing me and give me some advice?" Zhou smiled, then stopped smiling. "My opinion is not important, what matters is what you think. If you have a good impression of him, you might as well accept him and give it a try. If you don't feel anything at all, then simply reject him and make the matter clear." Huo Lily looked confused. "He is quite a good person, but he is too young. He is only 19 and has just entered the freshman year, while I am already 23 and have graduated and started working." She lowered her voice as she said, "If I want to be with him, I won't be able to eat young grass like an old cow." "Old cow eats young grass," Zhou couldn't hold back and burst into laughter. Huo Lily was a little embarrassed by her smile. "Ziu, stop laughing." Zhou stopped smiling again. "Lily, you are too exaggerated. You are still eating young grass. You two are only 3 years apart. Isn't there that saying that a female junior holds a gold brick? But I'm already working and he's still in school. Lily, since you have concerns, just reject him." "I rejected him, but he just didn't give up." Huo Lily sighed softly. Zhou looked at Huo Lily and understood that she was a little attracted to the boy, but she was worried and couldn't make up her mind. "I think you can start by being friends." "Start as friends first," Huo Lily said thoughtfully. Zhou continued, "When a boy first enters college, he grows the fastest and his personality changes the most. It may not be long before he falls in love with another girl. If he still doesn't change his mind after a year and a half, you can really consider giving him a chance." "Yes. If he likes other girls, I will be relieved," Huo Lily said with a smile. Zhou took a deep look at Huo Lily and heard the insincerity in her words. "Lily, you have to remember that for a man, the harder it is to get something, the more he will cherish it. He has been waiting for you for 3 years. If he is serious, waiting for 1 more year is nothing. If he can't wait, it means he is not sincere to you. Time will test the best way for a person." After hearing this, Huo Lily felt suddenly enlightened and said with a smile, Ziu, I knew it was right to come to you. You must have a way. Zhou Ziu smiled and said, Lily, if you two really get together in the future, you have to remember two things. 1. Don't get intimate with the other person too early, and 2. Find out his family's attitude towards you as soon as possible. It's not easy to get into a rich person's home. If his family doesn't approve of you, no matter how good your relationship is, you have to be careful. Beep. Before she could say anything, the phone on the table suddenly vibrated. Zhou Ziu picked up the phone and took a look, and her smiling face suddenly froze. What's wrong with Tsuyu? Did something happen? Huo Lily had never seen Zhou Ziu show such a complicated expression, sad, and lost. Her eyelashes trembled, as if tears were about to fall in the next second. When a beauty like her is sad, she feels like the whole world is wrong. Tsuyu, Huo Lily couldn't help but asked again with concern. Zhou Ziu took a breath, raised his head, forced back the tears, forced a smile and said, it's nothing. She had already been mentally prepared for Li Jia and Xiao Jiao to receive their certificates. But the moment she saw Xiao Jiao's official announcement on Moments, she still felt unspeakably uncomfortable. The love will be deep when we meet each other, and we will regret not meeting each other too early. Some things are doomed from the beginning, and it will be useless no matter how hard you try in the future. Huo Lily looked at her and said hesitantly, Ziu, if you have something on your mind, you can tell me. Although I can't help you, I can at least be a qualified listener. Zhou Ziu glanced at her, was silent for a while, and smiled with a complicated expression. He and Xiao Jiao received the certificate. Huo Lily was stunned for a moment. Did Li Jia and Xiao Jiao receive their certificates? She didn't know how to comfort Zhou Ziu for a moment. Tsuyu, the days ahead are long. Zhou Ziu shook her head lightly, Lily, you don't have to comfort me. Halfway through her words, she suddenly started retching. Ziu, what's wrong with you? Are you feeling unwell? Huo Lily asked nervously. Zhou Ziu waved his hands, covered his mouth, and retched a few more times. I'm fine. Are you really okay? How about I accompany you to the hospital? Zhou Ziu regained her smile, don't worry, I'm really fine. Huo Lily looked at her and suddenly realized something, Ziu, couldn't you be pregnant? Zhou Ziu didn't answer her, but stood up and said, let's go shopping. After coming out of the tea restaurant, the two got into a lava orange Porsche Cayenne. Huo Lily glanced at Zhou Ziu and said tentatively, Ziu, are you really pregnant? Zhou Ziu smiled, but still didn't answer. When Huo Lily saw this, she felt 78% sure. She said a little excitedly, does Li Jia know about your pregnancy? This is an opportunity. You don't know him, and that doesn't change anything. After Zhou Ziu finished speaking, he started the car and drove away with Huo Lily. Jiangning Road. Zhou Ziu took Huo Lily to shop in one shop on the pedestrian street. She bought whatever she saw, including clothes, shoes, bags and cosmetics. Soon, the 4 or 5 bodyguards following the two of them had their hands full of large and small bags. Ziu, is it almost done? Huo Lily looked on and was secretly speechless. When Zhou Ziu buys things, she buys whatever is expensive. A dress costs several thousand, a bag costs tens of thousands. In a short time, she has spent millions. Ms. Zhou, the balance on your card is insufficient. The female store manager returned the bank card. This card is Zhou Ziu's royalties card. He just received millions of royalties this month. Then swipe this one. Zhou Ziu took out another bank card from her handbag and handed it over. This card is a pocket card given to her by Li Jia. The female store manager took the bank card and swiped it on the POS machine. Ms. Zhou, the balance on this card is insufficient. Do you have any other cards? Wait a moment. Josio took out his cell phone and dialed. Husband, I have no money. Anyway, in Li Zhe's mind, he couldn't change the impression that she was greedy for money, so he might as well break the pot. After Josio hung up the phone, more than 10 minutes passed, and her phone suddenly vibrated. Okay, you can swipe your card. Josio and Huo Lily walked out of the store together. The female store manager sent them outside the store with great enthusiasm and watched them go away. A big customer like Josio, who can spend more than 200,000 yuan at a time, is really the bread and butter for her and must be provided for. Second sister-in-law, a surprised female voice suddenly came from behind Josio and Huo Lily. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 567. Josio turned around and saw that it was Li Zhe's second cousin Yao Li. She walked over quickly with a look of surprise on her face. Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian ran over behind her. Not far away, the fourth aunt, third aunt, second aunt, Yao Li's sister Yao Wan and others also came over. Second sister-in-law, you are shopping here too, Yao Li said happily. When she was an intern at Kudong Group, she lived with Josio for a while and was very close to her. Second sister-in-law. X2, Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian also shouted excitedly. Josio nodded to Yao Li and the others with a smile, you guys come here to shop too. Yao Li said with a smile, my mother and I came here to hang out. She, her sister Yao Wan, Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian accompanied her fourth aunt, third aunt, and second aunt to go shopping on Zhongning Road and buy 2 sets of better clothes. However, the price of the clothes here is difficult for the second aunt and the others to accept. Zhongning Road pedestrian street is the most famous commercial street in Shanghai. It is crowded with tourists and high-end luxury shopping malls. An ordinary t-shirt costs 1 or 200 yuan, and better clothes can easily cost hundreds or even thousands. In this era, e-commerce is far less popular than later generations, and physical stores are in their final glory period. 10 years later, out-of-season and out-of-size brand clothes on Zhongning Road were offered at 30% to 30% off, or even 30% to 50% off. Ordinary t-shirts were on sale for tens of dollars, but these days they were rare. The second aunt has the most stingy personality. She is not even willing to support her eldest daughter in high school. It would kill her to make her spend hundreds of dollars on a flashy dress. Sisters Yao Wan and Yao Li each bought a dress worth several hundred yuan, but she kept scolding her, even though her 2 daughters bought her a more expensive dress. The fourth aunt and the second aunt were more willing to give up. They gritted their teeth and bought a piece of clothing each. Xiaozhou, what have you been busy with recently? After the fourth aunt, third aunt, and second aunt came over, they looked at Josio and Huo Lily, and their eyes focused on the bags filled by the 4 or 5 bodyguards in their hands. Fourth aunt, third aunt, second aunt, Josio also smiled and greeted the fourth aunt and the others. I'm taking a break recently and am relatively free. Tsuyu, you've made your mark and become a great writer, the third aunt complimented her with a smile on her face. Compared to the fourth aunt and the second aunt, she is better at talking. Josio smiled and said modestly, I just published a few books, it's nothing. Fourth aunt, third aunt, and second aunt, let's leave first. You can continue shopping. After saying that, she nodded to Yao Li, Cheng Shuang, and Cheng Qian and left with Huo Lily. In the past, Josio would have done some superficial work, taking her fourth aunt and others around and buying them some things, but she was in a bad mood now and was not in the mood to deal with anyone. What's more, she had already seen that Li Zhe had no interest in these relatives at all. Seeing that Josio and the others were lucky, the smile on the third aunt's face suddenly disappeared, and she said a little dissatisfied, this little Joe is quite arrogant. She came back with Xiaoju that year and she felt quite sensible. Why is she putting on airs now, said the fourth aunt. Today is different from the past. At that time, Xiaoju just made some money by writing books online. Now he is a billionaire. Why don't people follow the rising tide? How can they look down on us? No matter how rich Xiaoju is, she is still just a mistress. Xiao Jiao doesn't even put on airs, so what qualifications does she have to put on airs? The fourth aunt, the third aunt, and the second aunt were talking to each other. The third aunt said in an envious and unfair tone, Xiao Jia is really generous to women. How much does it cost for Xiaozhou to buy something old that even 4 or 5 bodyguards can't carry? You are so generous to a mistress, but you are not willing to let go of your own family at all. The fourth aunt also said sourly, the very expensive big brand we just saw, the one with lipstick that costs hundreds of dollars, is called Audi. Cheng Shuang couldn't help but correct him, Mom, it's Dior, not Audi. Audi is a car. Yes, it's Dior. The fourth aunt nodded and continued. There are only a dozen Dior bags, so Xiaozhou must have spent at least 100,000, right? 100,000. Cheng Shuang added, a Dior bag costs tens of thousands of yuan. It would cost at least hundreds of thousands for my second sister-in-law to buy so many things. Hundreds of thousands. The fourth aunt, third aunt, and second aunt all took a breath after hearing this. The second aunt couldn't help but said, she spent hundreds of thousands on one shopping trip, so how much does she have to spend a year? Not even tens of millions. The fourth aunt's tone became even more sour. Xiao Jia is really quite capable. He would rather waste the money than let us get some benefits. If each of our families is given tens or even millions, what does it mean to him? It means that Xiao Jiao and Xiao Zhou will miss one more shopping trip. Let us take advantage of it, third aunt sneered. Eldest sister, Mother Li, hasn't even benefited from him yet, let alone us. Didn't Xiaoju build a 3-story villa for my eldest sister, said the second aunt. How much does it cost to build a small villa in the countryside? It's only 300,000 to 400,000 at most. The fourth aunt paused and then said, I heard that Xiaoju only gives my eldest sister 20,000 to 30,000 yuan in living expenses every month. The third aunt also complained, Zhepeng is still driving a taxi, and I haven't seen Xiaoju arrange a better job for him. I have to ask my eldest sister for money every month to repay the loan for the car I bought. At this point, they looked at each other, feeling a little discouraged. When they first heard that Li Jia had become a billionaire, the fourth aunt and the third aunt were all ecstatic, thinking that they would definitely be able to follow suit and share millions with their family. But I never expected that Li Jia would be so heartless. His half-brother would not take care of him, and he would not even listen to his own mother. Now they no longer dare to expect millions. They would be satisfied with 1.8 million or even hundreds of thousands. Kudong Group, President Office. Lu Kaiyu was sitting in a semi-open office, holding a script and reading it. This is the script of Why Is Secretary Lu Like That? As early as the year before last, Li Jia promised Lu Kaiyu that he would also make a TV series with her. However, due to the rapid development of the group in the past 2 years, the two of them were too busy with work, so they postponed it. Recently, Li Jia mentioned this matter again, saying that the crew is already in preparation and is expected to start filming this winter. Lu Kaiyu understood that Li Jia did this to appease her, but when she heard that the two of them could finally film, she still felt a sense of fulfillment. After work, she would take out the script and read it to prepare for filming in advance. Sister Kaiyu, these documents need to be signed by Mr. Li. A pretty young girl knocked on the door and walked in with a stack of documents. Lu Kaiyu put down the script, smiled at the girl and said, just put it down /. After the girl went out, she picked up a document and read it. She now has more and more power in her hands. As long as it is not a particularly important document, she can sign it on behalf of Li Jia. More than an hour later, Lucayo had almost finished processing the documents, and took several important documents to Li Zhe's office. Putting the files on the desk, she pulled out a chair and sat down. This chair is not much different from her chair, but sitting in this chair, Lucayo has a different feeling. It's like this chair is extremely comfortable to sit on. Beep, the phone on her body suddenly vibrated. Lucayo took out her phone and looked at it, her face suddenly changed slightly. He and Xiao Qiao finally received their certificates. She felt lost in her heart. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 568. Near Highway Road. In a specialty barbecue restaurant, Shenzhenyi was having a party with several girls. These girls are all well-known anchors under Kudong Video. They often connect with each other during live broadcasts, and they are relatively familiar with each other. Shenzhenyi didn't have many friends in Shanghai. He only had a roommate from college and best friend Zheng Jiaying who worked at Kudong Group, and these female anchors with whom he was relatively close. Let's do beauty treatments, go shopping, and have a meal together if we have nothing to do. The schedule of female anchors usually reverses day and night, live broadcasting at night and sleeping during the day. Although it was already afternoon, several of the girls had just woken up. Some of them didn't even put on makeup, their hair was disheveled and they were yawning, looking like they didn't have enough sleep. If fans see them like this, their idol filters will definitely fall to pieces. After all, there are very few girls who are naturally beautiful in reality. Most female anchors rely on makeup and beauty to achieve their beauty, and many shortcomings are exposed without makeup. Shenzhenyi also only put on light makeup and wore a simple t-shirt and skirt, but she is a beauty without makeup, so light makeup looks better than heavy makeup. After ordering some ingredients, a few girls laughed and chatted while baking and eating. Nanan, you have almost 6 million fans, right? There are still hundreds of thousands left. You are so awesome. Sister Yiyi's popularity is rising very quickly. The anchor industry is changing at a very fast pace. In the past 2 years, Suyani, Chen Xian, and Cao Qian, the first batch of internet celebrities who became popular, have gradually begun to become obsolete, and batches of new anchors have begun to show their prominence. The female anchor named Xionan is only 18 years old this year. She has just entered her sophomore year. She is not very beautiful, but she is very photogenic. With her lively and cute image, she became popular with a set of emoticon imitation shows. Within half a year, she became popular. With a sudden increase of 5 to 6 million fans, he became one of the top 10 new internet celebrities on the Kudong platform this year. In fact, Li Zhe asked Chen Xian to shoot the emoticon parody show. Many female internet celebrities and even celebrities followed suit, but Xionan, a new anchor, accidentally became popular. Another female anchor named Yiyi is only 20 years old. She has just entered her 3rd year of college this year. She is tall and has a great temperament. Her appearance is also very outstanding among the anchors. Coupled with her excellent dancing skills, it has nearly 2 million fans within a month or two of its launch, and thousands of people watch each live broadcast. While chatting about interesting things in the industry, Xionan, Yiyi and the other girls all complimented and flattered Shenzhenyi. The relationship between Shenzhenyi and Li Zhe is considered a semi-open secret in Kudong Studio. Who would dare to mess with the big boss's girlfriend if she didn't have a good eye for her? No matter how much jealousy you feel in your heart, you don't dare to show it on the surface. When a person has no money and power, he is surrounded by villains. When he is rich and powerful, he is surrounded by good people. It's not that there are no villains anymore, it's that the villains have all succumbed to the power of money. While eating barbecue, Shen Xian picked up his phone and started playing with it. Not only her, but several other girls were also eating, chatting, and playing with their mobile phones. As smartphones become more and more popular, especially after Kukat and WeChat became popular, there are more and more people who have their heads down. Voice chat, post selfies, food, travel, etc. Shen Xian swiped her phone and clicked on Fun Chat, first checked the messages, and then clicked on Moments. After seeing a circle of friends, her eyes narrowed and she couldn't help but be stunned. Sister Xinyi, the girl named Zionan called her softly when she noticed that Shen Xinyi was staring at her phone in a daze. Shen Xian came to his senses, but his expression was not very good. Sister Xinyi, are you worried? Zionan asked tentatively. Yi and the other girls also looked at her. It's nothing. Shen Xinyi smiled reluctantly at them. Li Jia and Xiao Jiao received their certificates. She felt indescribably bitter and uncomfortable, and had no appetite at all. The originally delicious barbecue in her hand no longer tasted good. Among the three of them, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi, the one who was most upset was not Zhou Ziyu or Lu Kaiyu, but Shen Xinyi, who seemed to be the least competitive. She and Li Jia were the first to have a crush on each other, even before Xiao Jiao. Li Jia also admitted this personally. But the little girl's reserve caused her to miss the opportunity. From the heroine to the third and fourth female lead, she even ranked behind Lu Kaiyu. The most unforgettable thing is not that there is no opportunity, but that there is an opportunity but not grasped. Shen Xinyi didn't know how many times she regretted this, why she didn't take the initiative at that time. If she could take the first step, she would be the first person to be with Li Jia. It is even possible that Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, and Lu Kaiyu will not have a chance. She is not as stupid as Xiao Jiao, but she let Zhou Ziyu take advantage of her easily. Maybe it was something he was thinking about or dreaming about at night. Shen Xian had a very real dream a while ago. In the dream, she and Li Jia exchanged contact information when they first met. After the welcome party, when the two met again, she did not hesitate and confessed to Li Jia first, and the two of them became a natural couple. Together, she and Li Jia walked hand in hand on campus, becoming the most enviable couple. Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, and Lu Kaiyu all looked at her with envy and jealousy. It would be nice if this wasn't just a dream, Shen Xian couldn't help but sigh. Sister Xinyi, what are you talking about? Zionan didn't hear clearly and asked subconsciously. Hearing her voice, Shen Xinyi temporarily retracted his thoughts, forced a smile and said, I said after dinner, let's go to the spa together. Zionan, Yi and the other girls looked at each other. Wasn't this something they had agreed upon before? The Bund, Riverside Graceland. Li Jia was having dinner with Xiao Jiao, Father Jiao, and Mother Jiao. Mother Jiao enthusiastically served Li Jia several dishes. Xiao Jia, eat more. Auntie, I can just pick up the food myself. The mother-in-law was so enthusiastic that Li Jia was a little uncomfortable with it. Mother Jiao said with some annoyance, you still call me auntie. You and Xiao Jiao have both obtained the certificates. Isn't it time to change your words? Just now, after seeing Xiao Jiao take out her marriage certificate, she finally felt at ease. Change your tune? Li Jia reacted, smiled, and called Mother Jiao, Mom. Then he turned around and called Father Jiao again, Dad. Hey, Mother Jiao responded heavily, unable to hide the smile on her face. Father Jiao snorted slightly, with a smile on his face. He never thought before that he would have a son-in-law who is a billionaire. Sneeze, Xiao Jiao suddenly covered his mouth and sneezed. Xiao Jiao, what's wrong with you? You have a cold, right? Mother Jiao asked worriedly. The two of them will hold a wedding the day after tomorrow. If they get sick at this time, it may affect the wedding. Xiao Jiao rubbed his nose lightly and said with a smile, it's okay, but my nose is a little itchy. Why is her nose suddenly itchy? Could it be that someone was talking bad about her behind her back? That Zhou Ziyu must have seen her marriage certificate posted on WeChat Moments and was jealous of her. Just to make this vixen jealous and uncomfortable. Beep beep. Li Zhe's cell phone suddenly vibrated. He took out his phone and looked at it, then stood up. Uncle. You still call me uncle? Dad, Mom, I'm going to take a call. A few minutes later, Li Zhe came back after answering the phone and said apologetically to Father Chiao and Mother Chiao, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry, there's something going on at the company. I have to go there. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 569. Xiaozhe, then go and get busy, the company's matters are important, Mother Chiao said quickly. It is normal for a big boss like Li Zhe to be busy at work. Neither Father Chiao nor Mother Chiao thought much about it. Xiao Chiao was a little suspicious, suspecting that Li Zhe was using work as an excuse to meet the little vixen outside. Why do you say again? It's because Li Zhe has a criminal record. Father Chiao, Mother Chiao, and Xiao Chiao sent Li Zhe outside the door together. Uncle, Aunt, I'm leaving then. After Li Zhe finished speaking, he reached out and hugged Xiao Chiao, I'll pick you up the day after tomorrow. According to custom, the groom and the bride are not allowed to meet the day before the wedding, so the next time Li Zhe comes, he will come to welcome the bride. Yeah, Xiao Chiao smiled and nodded. Seeing Li Zhe enter the elevator, Father Chiao and Mother Chiao turned around and returned to the room. Noticing that Xiao Chiao was in a trance, Mother Chiao touched her and asked, What are you thinking about? I didn't think about anything. Xiao Chiao came back to his senses and showed a charming smile. Li Zhe must have gone to find the little vixen outside. After leaving Xiao Chiao Na, Li Zhe drove to the Yanfang Beauty Club on Huihei Road. When I arrived at the store door, I saw Shen Xian standing pretty at the door. She wore a white t-shirt and a pink mesh skirt. Her simple dress made her look exceptionally pure and well-behaved, but she looked a little lonely and absent-minded. She didn't even notice Li Zhe's car coming over. This Shen Guiguai is in a mood. With this in mind, Li Zhe opened the car door and got out of the car. Be good. Seeing Li Zhe coming, Shen Xinyi was not too happy, but just smiled reluctantly. Husband. Li Zhe walked to Shen Xinyi with a smile, put his arms around her. What's wrong, are you in a bad mood? No. Shen Xian paused and said softly, I just want to see you. This Shen Guiguai doesn't mean what he says. However, even if Shen Xian didn't say anything, Li Zhe could guess why she was upset. He must have seen Xiao Chiao's post on Moments. If you find out that the man you like is married to someone else, any woman will get upset. Li Zhe came to the car with Shen Xian in his arms and helped her open the door. Get in the car. As soon as Shen Xian got into the car, Li Zhe also went around to the other side and got into the driver's seat, then started the car and left. The black Maybach was driving smoothly on the road. Shen Xinyi sat silently without speaking. Li Zhe glanced at her from time to time while driving. Husband, what do you want me to do? Shen Xinyi couldn't help but ask. Li Zhe looked at her again, smiled and said nothing. At this time, the light outside the car suddenly dimmed. Shen Xian subconsciously looked out the window and found that the car entered the Cross River Tunnel. Where are we going? To the company. This is the direction to Pudong New area. You'll know when you get there. Li Zhe stepped on the accelerator and accelerated the car. After passing the Cross River Tunnel, the car drove for another 10 minutes and came to a quiet and dense Chinese-style villa area, and stopped in front of a white Chinese-style villa. After getting off the car, Shen Xian took a look at the villa in front of him. The two-story villa faces water on the back and diverts water into the courtyard. The classical Chinese style is combined with modern architectural design. It is gorgeous yet low-key, and is particularly fashionable and beautiful. Husband, is this your new villa? Li Zhe smiled and nodded to her. Let's go in. After saying that, he walked into the villa first. Jijiantang Villa is one of the top 10 luxury houses in Shanghai. The number 52 house that Li Jie bought is located in the waterfront area in the middle of the villa area. It has an excellent location and is next to Jack Ma's villa. However, Jack horses rarely come here and are basically vacant. For the top rich, the most indispensable thing is luxury houses, which are too numerous to live in. As soon as you walk into the villa, you will see a large living room with a height of 7.5 meters, covering hundreds of square meters. It is decorated in a modern light luxury style, luxurious but not heavy. Li Jie turned around, glanced at Shen Xian, smiled and said, "What do you think of this villa?" "Very good, very beautiful." Shen Xian looked around and said. Clearly, she loves the villa. Although this villa is not as luxurious as Sandalwood Villa, it is more beautiful and fashionable in appearance, and is more popular among young people. If you like it, you can move here. The house on the Bund is a bit small. This is a single-family villa. The environment is better and more suitable for you to shoot videos. After listening to Li Jie's words, the smile on Shen Xinyi's face faded. She stared at him and bit her lip and said, "Is this considered compensation?" Li Jie smiled, reached out and rubbed her head. "What are you thinking about? I bought this villa specially for you." "Really?" Shen Xinyi was a little doubtful. "Of course it's true." Li Jie said he was sure, but felt a little guilty in his heart. In fact, he originally prepared this villa for Lu Yufei. When he saw Shen Xian getting emotional, he used it to comfort her. Li Jie had long expected that Zhou Ziyu and Lu Kaiyu would get into trouble after he and Xiao Jiao received their certificates, but he didn't expect that Shen Xinyi would be the first to come to him. But it's normal to think about it. Among the four of them, Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, and Lu Kaiyu, he cares the least about Shen Xinyi. People have emotions, and no matter how well behaved Shen Xinyi is, he will inevitably get emotional if he is ignored too many times. The matter of him and Xiao Jiao receiving the certificate can only be said to be the trigger. Shen Xian stared at Li Jie for a while, then walked to him and hugged his waist. "Honey, I don't want a villa, I just want you to spend more time with me." There was grievance in her voice. Li Jie reached out and hugged Shen Xinyi, caressing her back. "Xinyi, I'm sorry, I didn't do a good enough job, but I will be more attentive in the future." Shen Xinyi was silent for a moment and said softly, "Husband, if I could have taken the initiative, would we have been together?" "Yes," Li Jie said without hesitation. After a pause, he sighed and said, "The first thing I liked was you." Among the four of them, Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi, Li Jie was indeed attracted to Shen Xinyi first, but by some mistake, she ended up last. "The first thing I liked was you." Shen Xian felt as if his heart had been hit hard by something. He was so sad and uncomfortable that he couldn't help but burst into tears. She really missed it? Li Jie was stunned for a moment, feeling that his chest was soaked with warm liquid, and then realized that Shen Xinyi was crying. He lifted Shen Xinyi up from his arms and reached out to gently wipe away the tears on her face. "Stop crying, it's not you who's wrong, it's me." Shen Xinyi didn't speak, tears kept falling down. Seeing her like this, Li Jie suddenly seemed to realize something in his heart, and for a moment he felt complicated and unspeakable. This girl liked him and cared about him far more than he thought. This chapter is from yesterday. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 570. Li Jie once thought that among the four of Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu, Shen Xinyi was the one most likely to leave him because she always acted a little distant. Opening a store, managing finances, and investing in real estate, she was focused on making money, as if she would run away once she made enough money. But now he understands that this Shen Guiguai is like a little money addict who is obsessed with making and saving money. He is probably just insecure and afraid that one day he will be left out and abandoned. It was his neglect of caring for her that made her feel increasingly insecure. Thinking of this, Li Jie sighed softly in his heart and reached out his hand to gently wipe away the tears on Shen Xian's face. "My dear, do you still remember the first time we met?" Shen Xian looked at him with tearful eyes and nodded lightly. "On the way to the cafeteria, I had my period and stomachache, so you carried me to the school hospital." After hearing what she said, Li Jie smiled and nodded. "How about I carry you like that again?" After saying that, he leaned over and squatted down. As soon as Shen Xian looked at Li Jie, who was squatting in front of her, her eyes fell on his broad and strong back, and her expression was in a daze, as if she overlapped with the figure from 4 years ago. Soon, she came back to her senses, twitched her nose, smiled through her tears, and lay on Li Jie's back, wrapping her arms around his neck, and pressed her warm body against his back. Li Jie picked up her legs, lifted them up, and jumped up. "Ah, why did it sink so much?" he screamed in surprise, as if Shen Xinyi was really heavy. When Shen Xian heard this, she couldn't help but retort coquettishly, "What are you talking about? Where have I gained weight? I only weigh a little over 100 pounds. A little more than 100 pounds. Li Jie said with a teasing smile. "How many kilograms more?" "It's only a few dozen kilograms." Shen Xian raised her voice subconsciously. "I've only gained a little more than 10 pounds, so my weight is still pretty standard, okay." After a pause, she said with some annoyance, "You didn't say that, you like me to be fatter. I just gained weight now, and now you still dislike me. So you blame me." Li Jie carried Shen Xian out of the villa, came to the yard, and walked slowly along the water corridor. "Of course it's your fault," Shen Xian said firmly. "Isn't it because you love to eat, you are a snack foodie, and you can't keep your mouth shut, so you eat fat," Li Jie said, pretending to be confused. "Yeah. You got the advantage and you behaved, right? I do like to eat, but I'm not a foodie, not a foodie. I can keep my mouth shut." Shen Xinyi's last words sounded somewhat guilty. "You said you were comfortable when you were hugging me and bullying me hard, but now you are making sarcastic remarks here, you, big pig's hooves, big pig's hooves." After saying that, she angrily let go of the hand holding Li Jie's neck, grabbed his ear and twisted it hard. Hiss. Li Jie couldn't help but groaned in pain. This Shen Guiguai was really cruel. "Good boy, you're not good now, let go." "Not good? I used to be too honest, that's why I was bullied by you. I want to change from now on." As Shen Xian spoke, he used a little more strength on his hands. "Don't forget that I'm from Chongqing. Today I'm going to show you how powerful my girlfriend in Chongqing is." The water was gurgling in the classical and elegant courtyard, and the two of them were laughing and laughing. Shen Xian kept saying harsh words, but her heart was full of tenderness. She hugged Li Jie tightly, her legs wrapped around his waist, and her soft body was close to his. I really hoped that Li Jie could stay like this forever. Carrying her down. Be good. Li Jie stopped smiling and his tone became serious. Don't think about it anymore. Believe me, we will always be together. Yet after hearing this, Shen Xian was stunned for a moment, then she pursed her lips and hummed softly, leaning her head on Li Jie's shoulder. For the next time, neither of them spoke anymore, and Li Jie walked around the yard with Shen Xinyi on his back. Noticing that Li Jie took a breath and seemed a little tired, Shen Xian couldn't help but said, "Hubby, if you are tired, please put me down. It's okay. Although you are a little heavier, your husband and I are in good health and can still bear it," Li Jie said in a relaxed tone. "You call me heavy again?" Shen Xinyi snorted lightly. "Okay, since you're not tired, just keep carrying it." Li Jie smiled and walked towards the villa with her on his back. "Where are we going?" "Send you back to your room." Shen Xin was stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter. Didn't you say you're not tired? I'm not tired, but I have to save some energy. Li Jie kept walking and said with deep meaning. Save some energy? Shen Xin thought about it and understood something immediately. She bit her lip and said with a smile, don't try to bully me these days. I'm on my period. You'd better find a way to solve it yourself. After hearing this, Li Jie couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Alas, it was a waste of time to coax her. Of course this is just a joke, he is not that bad. What's wrong, are you a little disappointed? Shen Xin glanced at Li Jie, and the smile on his face became stronger. If it's not convenient for you, then let's play a little game. As Li Jie spoke, he gently caressed Shen Xinyi's legs. My dear, your legs are beautiful. Shen Xin's heart trembled, but she said, good looking? Didn't you say that my legs are short? That's right. I don't have as long legs as Caillou and the others. You'd better stop causing trouble to me and go find Xiaoyu and the others. Did he say she had short legs? Li Jie thought about it, and he seemed to have said casually that it would be nice if his legs were longer. Hey, women are so petty. However, although this Shen Guigui's legs are not long enough, nor are they particularly slender, they are well proportioned, white, tender, and a little fleshy. They feel great when played with, but they are not comparable to those chopstick-like legs. My dear, you don't have to feel inferior at all. I like you even if you have short legs. I feel inferior, Shen Xin couldn't help but raise her voice. I don't feel inferior. She is still very confident in her appearance and figure. Although Shen Xinyi cannot be compared with the stunning beauty of Zhou Ziyu and Wang Zhaining, she is better than pure and sweet. In the words of 10 years later, she is a sweet girl, and she is still the kind of top sweet girl with online appearance and figure. Also, you actually said that my legs are short. Shen Xin became more and more angry as he spoke. This guy Li Jie always deliberately made her angry. You'd better solve it yourself. Don't think that I will help you. Seeing that Shen Xin was in a mood, Li Jie had a playful smile on his face. Rejection is invalid. If you don't agree, I can only enforce it. Well, scenario acting is also very good. How dare you? Be careful, I bite you. Shen Xin's voice was fierce. Li Jie was amused by her and nodded with a smile. Well, you are very fierce. He understands this very well. What are you talking about? Shen Xin felt that there was something in his words. You want to bite me? Ah, Li Jie was just halfway through his words when he suddenly felt pain in his shoulder and couldn't help but snort. My dear, do you really bite me? Humph, I'm so fierce. The Bund. In a quiet cafe, Luan Xiaolin, Nini, Suyani, and Zhang Wenjun sat together in silence, and the atmosphere fell into an awkward silence. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 571. This meeting was initiated by Suyani. She not only contacted Luan Xiaolin and others, but also contacted Lu Yufei, Sun Wanning, Zhao Minjiao, Zhao Yuhuan, Naza, Chen Xian, Shu Sudan, and others. Although she was not sure how many lovers Li Jie had, she could guess a rough range. As long as the relationship with Li Jie didn't seem to be innocent, Suyani contacted them all. Just take this opportunity to verify her guess. However, Lu Yufei, Sun Wanning and others refused one after another, and most of them did not come. Only Luan Xiaolin, Nini, and Zhang Wenjun were actually present. Zhang Wenjun's eyes kept lingering on Luan Xiaolin, Nini, and Suyani, his expression unmoving. Compared with Luan Xiaolin, Nini, and others, she and Li Jie were together at the latest, so they were considered latest learners. She was still a little curious about seniors such as Luan Xiaolin and Lu Yufei, and wanted to get in touch with them, so after receiving an invitation from Suyani after the invitation, he hesitated for a while before agreeing. But when she arrived, she found that there were only Luan Xiaolin and a few others, and she was inevitably a little disappointed. In fact, the reason why there are so few people coming is mainly because Suyani, as the initiator, has a low status. She is just an internet celebrity and is a bit outdated. She really doesn't have much appeal. If it had been Lu Yufei or Luan Xiaolin, there would never have been so few people here. Nini fiddled with the coffee cup in her hand, looking a little impatient. She and Zhang Wenjun had the same idea. If she had known that there were so few people coming, she would definitely not have come. She didn't have deep feelings for Li Jie. The reason why she delivered goods to her doorstep in the first place was just to take shortcuts and get resources so that she could become famous as soon as possible. She never thought about how long she would be with Li Jie. But as Li Jie's status became higher and higher, and now he had even become an important boss in the business world, she didn't want to leave anymore. Even if she doesn't see Li Jie once or twice a month, she clearly feels that he has lost interest in her. For a big boss like Li Jie, it was already a stroke of luck to meet one, but she had no confidence that she would be able to reach the second one. What's more, with the status of such a big shot lover, basically no one in the entertainment industry dares to mess with her, so she has no worries about resources. Nini made up her mind that as long as Li Jie didn't ask her to leave, she would continue to do so. Luan Xiaolin picked up the vibrating phone on the table and took a look. After putting down the phone, she looked at Suyani and said lightly, "If you have anything to say, just say it quickly. I have something to do later." Suyani listened, but did not speak immediately. Instead, she glanced at Nini and Zhang Wenjun respectively, and then hesitantly said, "Brother Jie is getting married tomorrow." Luan Xiaolin, Nini, and Zhang Wenjun suddenly felt bad when they heard this topic. Although Luan Xiaolin and the others had never expected to marry Li Jie, they did not want him to marry too early. Once he got married, their status as shady lovers became even more embarrassing. "What should we do in the future?" Suyani continued. "What else can we do? It's just like before, whatever happens." Nini smiled, as if she didn't take it seriously. Zhang Wenjun thought for a while and said, "Xiao Qiao has a very good personality and is not the kind of strong girl." Although Li Jie chose to marry young, which made her very disappointed, but thankfully the person he chose was Xiao Qiao. If there is a strong boss lady, it will be difficult for her to be a personal secretary. After hearing this, Suyani and Nini also showed signs of approval. For them, Li Jie's choice of Xiao Qiao was the best result. If Zhou Ziyu succeeds in taking the position, they, lovers, will not have a good life. Luan Xiaolin did not speak, her eyes were very complicated. She has been with Li Jie for a long time, even one step ahead of Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi, let alone Nini, Suyani, Zhang Wenjun, and the others. All of them are juniors. But Lu Yufei and Wang Zhaining came up one after another, especially Wang Zhaining, who even came to the house. Although she can't compare with Xiao Qiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi, she can still be regarded as half a hostess, and her status is far beyond that of Luan Xiaolin and other shady lovers. Not to mention that the other party also gave birth to Li Jie's eldest daughter. How could Luan Xiaolin be convinced by this? Seeing that Li Jie was about to get married, the situation was set and it was difficult to change, which made her regretful. Luan Xiaolin couldn't help but think that if she had not chosen to be a star, but like Wang Zhaining, had chosen to stay with Li Jie as a secretary, the result might have been different. Li Jie had said that if there was a chance, let her and Lu Kaiyu compete to see whose legs were longer. This opportunity may be difficult to come by in the future. Thinking of this, Luan Xiaolin had no intention of staying any longer and stood up. "If there's nothing else, I'll leave first." After saying that, she turned around and left. Suyani quickly stopped her. "Sister Xiaolin. Is something wrong?" Luan Xiaolin looked at her. "How about we have a fun chat and keep in touch in the future?" Suyani's tone revealed a warmth. Then, She turned to Nini and Zhang Wenjun and said, "Sister Ni, Wenjun, can we come together?" Luan Xiaolin hesitated for a moment, glanced at Zhang Wenjun, and nodded. Suyani is just an internet celebrity and has little value in making friends, but Zhang Wenjun's personal status cannot be underestimated. That's how Wang Zhaining rose to power. Seeing that Luan Xiaolin agreed, Nini and Zhang Wenjun also agreed. After the four of them finished exchanging interesting chats, Luan Xiaolin left first, followed closely by Nini. Zhang Wenjun stayed for a while and learned about Li Zhe's past affairs with Suyani. She had been with Li Zhe for the last time, knew very little about him, and was very interested in Li Zhe's past affairs. Suyani and Zhang Wenjun walked out of the coffee shop together. "Yani, I'll leave first." Zhang Wenjun reached out to open the car door and turned to say hello to Suyani. Yes, Suyani nodded with a smile. "Wenjun, let's get together more often when you have time." Seeing the red Porsche sports car driving away, the smile on Suyani's face suddenly disappeared. If she hadn't had insufficient status and not been favored, she wouldn't have had to compromise like this and befriend Luan Xiaolin and Zhang Wenjun. Nini can only see Li Zhe once or twice a month, and Suyani is not much better. She also rarely has the opportunity to see Li Zhe. She was really afraid that Li Zhe would no longer want her one day. "Did you fall while riding a bicycle?" "My head was really caught in the door at that time, so I made such a bad excuse." Suyani regretted it very much. It was all because she was young and ignorant and used her own hands. Otherwise, he would not be disliked by Li Zhe. "Hey," Suyani sighed softly and walked towards her car. Her car would have been a white BMW 3 Series instead of Zhang Wenjun and the others. Hangzhou, Southeast Language Institute. On the classroom podium, Suyisha, wearing an off-white long skirt and a pair of round glasses, was teaching the students. More than a year ago, after graduating from graduate school, Suyisha applied to be a Japanese teacher in these 3 language colleges. She is beautiful in appearance, sweet and cute, and has a good personality, so she is very popular among students. As long as it is her class, few people skip class, and there are even other students who have transferred to another school to listen. After more than a year, she has become a famous beautiful teacher in the school. For the 5th question, choose A, which means about to, should, and B means gradually. Suyisha held the exercise book and explained the exercises absent-mindedly. Suddenly a girl in the front row raised her hand and said, "Teacher Su, you haven't talked about the 4th question yet." "Oh, I'm sorry." Suyisha reacted and showed an apologetic smile. After the bell rang, Suyisha left the classroom with the lesson plan in her arms and did not chat with the students for a while as usual. Back in the office, she put the lesson plan on the desk and sat down on the chair, her eyes a little dull. Not far away, a male teacher wearing black-rimmed glasses stared at her and said, "Xiao Su, you have finished your class."